Today, I want to talk to you about 10 books that I would really love to read by the end of the year. In the beginning of the year, I challenged myself by creating a Bose 25 and 25 to kind of engage myself in diversifying my reading. And I also joined somebody over on Bookstagram who has a challenge that they've created as well. She also gives out prizes at the end of the year, which is really cool for people that complete her challenge. So before 2025, I hadn't really been reading anything ever. And if I did, it was like super random that I'd pick up like maybe one or two at the most books a year. And so this is going to be my first full year of reading, like intentionally reading as a hobby. So I really wanted to not just pick up the most popular books that I saw, but also, pick out things that were going to help me get out of my comfort zone, try new things, hear different voices and things like that. Essentially, almost every single thing I read this year has been new to me because, like I said, I have not been reading in years. So almost every author, I think, besides R.L. Stine, was a brand new author to me, which is fun and exciting because I feel like I am literally exploring, finding what I like and what I don't like this year. This is the year of like trying everything. And that's what I wanted to do essentially, is like dabble into like different genres and different authors. And sometimes I get sucked into the same thing, like I get stuck in the same genre. Because I'm starting to find what I like and really the things that are not appealing to me as much. So I think this has been a really good year for exploring where my interests lie and what kind of books I'll probably be gravitating to moving forward. But that being said, at the beginning of the year, I did commit to doing these challenges. So I do have prompts left that I would like to complete before the year is out. I'll put them up on the screen, but I know because there's so many prompts, it's going to be like really tiny and you probably won't be able to actually see all the prompts, but you'll get an idea of like what I'm doing and how it looks. If you want to see them up close and be able to zoom in and everything, you can go over to my Bookstagram. I do have a highlight section. It says challenges and you can click on that and like see up close what the prompts are and what books I've already read for those prompts. But essentially what I'm doing is going to give you 10 books that I would like to read before the end of the year, and those 10 books were selected not because they're the books I'm most excited about, even though most of them I am really excited to read, but the intention behind choosing a lot of these has been to check off some of these prompts, which again doesn't mean I'm not excited about them. It just means like I didn't necessarily choose them because I was like gung-ho about grabbing them. It was essentially prompted by these challenges. So I might do it differently at the start of next year, but in 2025, that's what I chose to do. Let me also say, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to end up reading these. I would like to get these on, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't complete every single prompt on the challenge, if I don't read every single book on this list, because as I was saying, as the year goes on, I'm starting to find what I'm really gravitating towards and what I kind of want to pick up sooner rather than later. Although I love to make TBRs and follow challenges and play TBR games, I am at heart a bit of a mood reader. So if I am not in the mood to read something and I see another book that catches my eye and it's like, ooh, shiny, I want to read that, I will do that. So I've been kind of getting into a lot of new releases. I've been picking up a lot of arcs, which I think I'm going to start gravitating away from because I don't like the pressure of having to read a book within a deadline, which doesn't make any sense because I do that with my TBR game, which is fun, but I feel like in the TBR game, I'm only letting myself down, but I'm not letting like an author down. You know what I mean? So like if I don't get to somebody's arc in time, I feel really bad. So I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself to actually read the arcs on time and get these reviews out before the books are published. I don't actually request a ton of arcs, so I don't have too many, and I'm not really that behind. I feel like I'm behind, but I'm actually not because the books that I have arcs for are not coming out till September and October, so I'm actually right on track. But that means I need to read these arcs like right now. Like I would have to read like my whole TBR for August and September would need to be these arcs to get them out on time. So that kind of like bothers me because it kind of puts me out of like reading them because I want to and I'm in the mood for them, and it turns into more like, oh, I have to do this because I'm kind of owing this person that I committed to doing that. This is my first year trying arcs and seeing what this is all about. I barely found out this year what arcs even were, and so I was like really excited about it because everybody was talking about arcs and getting arcs and really excited to read books before they come out. And Although it is fun, I don't know that I will be requesting as many as I have this year. I might request just like one or two here or there, but I don't think I'll be requesting a lot of arcs moving forward just to not put that pressure on myself. I'm not really like that kind of person that needs to read the newest books out there. Like, I'm still trying to get through like backlists, like books on my shelves that I've had like forever, or books from authors that have been written like years and years ago. Like, I don't necessarily need to be reading the newest, latest book. Those are just some of my thoughts right now. But, anyways, let's get into my list. The first book I want to talk to you about is You've Reached Sam by Destin Tao. So, this book is a YA contemporary romance that also has magical realism. Destin Tao is an LGBTQ author. He is Vietnamese American, and he wrote this book as number one in a series called You've Reached Sam. The second book in the series actually comes out the end of September, and it's called You Found Oliver. Now, both books deal with characters named Sam who have passed away, but don't get confused because the Sam in this book is not the same Sam in the next book. It looks like the two books are standalone, but they exist in the same universe. This was Dustin's debut novel that he published in 2021. And honestly, what drew me initially to this book when I was walking through the bookstore was the cover. I think this cover is so beautiful. It actually has like lightly sprayed pink edges too, which is really, really cute. So I was just fully enamored by this cover that I had to pick it up and see what this was about. And the second that I read the little blurb on the back, then got like a snippet of what it was, I immediately bought it. I also bought another book of his, but we're not going to get into that one because I wanted to focus on this book today. So what drew me to this, besides the cover, was the fact that this book is about dealing with grief. So the main character, Julie, is a 17-year-old girl who her boyfriend, Sam, tragically passed away, and so she is dealing with the loss of her boyfriend that she was very much in love with. So as she is dealing with her grief, she is missing him so much, she decides to call his phone just to listen to his voicemail, just to hear his voice one more time. And I don't know about you, but I've actually done that before with somebody that I've lost. So I totally get that, and that really resonated with me when I heard that part of it. But where this book gets really interesting is that one day when she calls his voicemail, Sam actually answers the phone. So she ends up being able to talk to Sam over the phone, even though he has already passed away. And that's as much as I know. So I am very intrigued to see where this book is going to go. I've had this book on my shelf for probably since January. At the beginning of the year, I was so excited to start reading again that I needed to build up my library. So I went on a lot of book shopping sprees and just bought a lot of books that I was really interested in, and I never actually got around to reading them. So 8 months later, I still have this book on my shelf untouched, so I would really love to read this by the end of the year. And if I do get to read it before the end of the year, it would fulfill two prompts. So in Bows 25 and 25, it fulfills the prompt grief or terminal illness, and in the Effing Twisted challenge, it fulfills the prompt book that starts with a Y. The second book I want to talk to you about is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This is a Black male author who won the Pulitzer Prize for Best Fiction in 2020 for this book. And that's exactly the prompt that this fulfills. The Effing Twisted Challenge prompt is a Pulitzer Prize winning book for fiction, so this was perfect. And the prompt for Bows 25 and 25 is read a book with a Black male protagonist. So this is a historical fiction novel that was published in 2019. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the synopsis. When Elwood Curtis, a Black boy growing up in 1960s Tallahassee, is unfairly sentenced to a juvenile reformatory called the Nickel Academy, he finds himself trapped in a grotesque chamber of horrors. Elwood's only salvation is his friendship with his fellow delinquent Turner. This is based on the true story of a reform school that operated for 111 years and warped the lives of thousands of children. So in doing a little bit of research, I found out that the name of this school was the Dozier School for Boys in Florida. There is another really popular book that is out that I also want to read at some point called The Reformatory that I realized that is based on the same school. So this sounds like a book that's probably going to piss me off and break my heart, but I'm really excited to read it because it sounds like it's going to be very profound. This already sounds like a 5-star read, and it says it's only about 213 pages, so it should be actually pretty quick, even though the subject matter sounds like it's going to be really heavy. The third book in my 10 before the end is going to be The Wedding People by Alison Esbeck. So one of the challenge prompts is a Goodreads 2024 winner, and this book was actually the winner for readers' favorite fiction. So in the very beginning of the year, I was actually struggling to find a copy of this book because everybody wanted to get their hands on it in January. And I was lucky enough to find the final copy of it at Target, and I was like desperate to get my hands on it because I was so hyped up by everybody that was talking about this book. I needed to get it on my shelf. And then it sat there for 8 months and I have not wanted to pick it up. And gradually, as the months have gone on, I've been hearing some controversial reactions to the book as more people have been reading it. So I'm on the fence about whether or not I will like this book. When I first heard about it, I thought this was going to be an automatic 5-star read. This is essentially about a woman who always wanted to go to this really fancy hotel, and I believe she was supposed to go with her husband, but she ends up going alone, and her intention for going for that weekend, I believe, is to end her life. And so I don't know what's going on in her life that she decides that she wants to end it, but essentially that's why she's there. When she gets there, she finds that there is a wedding going on that weekend, and she happens to be the only person there at the hotel that's not actually a part of this wedding. She ends up talking to the bride, and her and the bride end up like confiding in each other the entire weekend, and that's about all I know. And so because I've heard that this book is pretty lighthearted, even though it deals with a very serious subject matter, I'm assuming that she doesn't actually go through with it at the end. So I loved books that deal with mental health and very serious topics, and I really thought this was going to be a deep dive, a very serious, gritty book that revolved around suicidal ideation. However, from what I've heard about it, is some people had gripes about how this book actually dealt with SI, and so I don't know how I'm going to end up feeling about it. I'm hoping that it's still a really interesting read. It's interesting to me that the cover of this looks like a fun beach read when the subject matter is dealing with somebody who wants to end their life. So I don't know how I'm feeling about it, but I do own it, so I do want to read it. So we'll see, but those are just my thoughts. I try not to let everybody else's opinions influence me too much about how I feel about a book, this way or that, but I do like to take people's opinions into consideration because sometimes other people have thoughts on things which are eye-opening for me that I didn't realize. So I might like something and then realize like, oh, that's actually kind of harmful, or maybe I should look at it with a different lens and see somebody else's perspective. So I like to just keep things into consideration when I go into something. So I'm actually glad that I've heard some of the negative reviews about this. It gives me a heads up when I'm going into this on what to kind of expect and what to keep an eye out for as I'm reading it. But a lot of people like this book, so I'm expecting it to be pretty decent. We'll see how it goes. The fourth book that I want to talk about is Looking for Alaska by John Green. And this book I'm choosing because both of the challenges that I'm following have the prompt read a banned book. So because Looking for Alaska has been banned and challenged many times over the years, I definitely want to see what all the fuss is about. In doing a little bit of research, I actually heard that this book was challenged many times because of LGBT content, when in fact this book does not even have an LGBT QIA plus character in the book. So I'm a little bit confused about that, but it's also being challenged and banned because of sexually explicit content. And this is a book that deals with teenagers, so I guess a lot of parents are up in arms because the book is pornographic. So this book is actually a YA coming of age novel, and I love a coming of age story, so I'm actually even more excited to read this. So it deals with a male character named Pudge, who is a teenager who leaves his boring life to attend boarding school at Culver Creek in search of a great beyond. There he meets the enigmatic and captivating Alaska Young, and that essentially turns his whole world upside down, I guess. And so it says like there was before Alaska and then there was after Alaska, and I guess it's a story about how you can meet somebody and essentially they can change your entire life. I'm actually really excited. It sounds really intriguing, and it's probably something that I would have really liked reading when I was a teenager, so I wish I would have found it when I was in high school, but I love reading YA and middle grade apparently very much still as an adult, so I'm excited to get into it. This was a book that was actually published in 2006, and I must be living under a rock because I actually never heard of it before this year. So the fifth book I want to talk about is Lost in the Garden by Adam S. Leslie, and this is a book following the prompt on Bose 25 and 25 that said pick a book based on the cover only. So I actually know nothing about this book except that I was super captivated by the cover. And why is that? Because it reminds me of Midsummer, and Midsummer is one of my all-time favorite horror films. I love that movie so much. And the cover of Lost in the Garden is just so reminiscent. I will put both of them so you can see what I'm talking about. And so I really want to pick it up just because I'm intrigued. But please don't tell me what it's about because I don't want to know. The most that I know about this book is that it is a horror book, and that's already too much information. I actually picked it for this prompt before I even know that it was horror. So the fact that it is horror, I'm actually a little bit more excited to read it and more intrigued. But essentially, this is just a cover pick, and I really want to get to this book soon. The sixth book I want to talk to you about is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This, as everybody seems to know, is the first book in the ACOTAR series. This book was published in 2015. This book fulfills the prompt, read a romantasy. This will literally be the first romantasy I have ever read, and I have started it. I did start reading this in January, and I was actually like really heavily annotating this and listening to the fully dramatized audiobook that is awesome. It sounds like you're literally listening to a movie. So even though I was enjoying this book at the beginning of the year, because it is so chunky for me, I ended up putting it down and picking up so many other smaller books because I just wanted to try so many other things and I felt like this was taking me too long. Now, unfortunately, I never picked it back up again. And so it's not because I don't like it and I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. It's just fantasy books are long and they're a big commitment and it's part of a very long series and it's just a lot. So I do want to actually finish this before the year is over because I did enjoy it and I do want to finish annotating and I was just having a lot of fun with it. I was even like doodling pictures. Like I was having such a good time. Let me show you like what I was doing. I'm going to show you some of the pages that I annotated. So like, you know, if you haven't read it, like spoiler alert. Like when I first started annotating this, I was so excited because I had just found out what annotating was, and I had seen that like people would actually draw in their books and use different colors and tabs, and so I used this book as basically like an experiment. So not only is this a really long book already for me, but when I'm annotating a book, it takes me even longer to read it because every time I read a line that inspires me to underline or highlight or doodle a picture into my book, I have to actually stop reading and take the time to actually put that in the book and get the tab and all of that. So this is taking me like so long to read, but I will say I'm actually having a good time with it. So eventually I will finish this book. This is not a DNF. This is just on pause for right now. And if there does happen to be somebody watching this video who doesn't know what this is about, even though I'm assuming everybody and their mom already has read this, I will read you the back so you have a little bit of an idea of what everybody is talking about. When 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled her world. That's all I'm going to read. I don't want to spoil the rest of it. Essentially, though, this book is like a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, which is also kind of what threw me off because I went into this completely blind. Like, I knew nothing about it except that it had to do with fairies, and people often referred to it as fairy smut. So, I was confused because the only fantasies that I was really aware of were like Lord of the Rings, and because I had never read smut before, and well, no, that's not true because I did read The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty by Anne Rice. I digress. So I was very curious to see what kind of fairies were in this book, and already right off the bat, from being about 100 pages in, the fairies in this book are very different from what I imagined fairies to be. So that's been very intriguing to me so far. That's different than what I expected, but I had no idea that this was essentially a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So as I was reading, there was things happening that felt almost identical to the Beauty and the Beast story, and I was very confused. I was like, am I literally just reading Beauty and the Beast right now? And so that kind of annoyed me. I was not familiar with the idea of a retelling, and to me it felt like, okay, so she just copied another story. I don't get it. But now essentially I'm like, okay, it's a twist on it, and a part of me doesn't like that because I feel like you're just essentially telling me the exact same story, and that bothers me. But there is elements that are very different. So the parts that are like Beauty and the Beast bother me, but the parts that are different is where I'm intrigued, and those are the parts that I'm interested in. And I have heard that the rest of the series moves away from the whole Beauty and the Beast retelling thing, so I'm excited to get past that part. But everything that is in this book that isn't literally just a copy paste of the Beauty and the Beast story has me intrigued. So I do want to finish this before 2026, if possible. Book number 7 on the list is Desperate Measures by Katie Robert, and I got this in a blind date with a book package from Books with Desh, and I'll link her Etsy shop below because you can buy your own from her. She does romance books, either light romance or dark romance, and I chose her dark romance because there's a prompt on my challenge list that literally says read a blind date with a book. So I chose to get one from her. I was actually really excited when I opened it and saw the cover because the main male character actually reminds me of an actor that I really enjoy watching. If you've seen 365 Days, you'll know what I'm talking about. So this book is basically a reimagining of Aladdin, where Jafar is the love interest and Jasmine is the princess of a dark underworld. So it essentially says that she is being controlled by her father and his right-hand man, which is Jafar, and she basically like doesn't have freedom and she wants to escape, I guess, but she's torn because she ends up falling in love with him, even though he's not a very good guy. So yeah, it's a dark romance, so I don't know, check trigger warnings if that's concerning for you. And it is book 1 in the Wicked Villains series. So the Wicked Villain series is actually reminding me very much of Emily McIntyre's Never After series. So I read Hooked, which is the #1 book in that series, and now I'll be reading Desperate Measures eventually, which is the #1 book in the Wicked Villain series. So I'm actually interested to see, the differences between these two villain series because they sound very similar. Like they both reimagine popular fairy tale romances. So I guess if you like this book, you might also want to check out this book. I don't know. I haven't read this one yet, but essentially I feel like the two series are doing the exact same thing. So hopefully I like her writing. I've heard good things about it, but we'll see. As you may or may not already know, I'm not like a huge romance reader or smut reader, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a good time. So sometimes it's fun to like throw in some of those like brain rot books, if you will, or like popcorn reads where I know I'm not going to get a bunch of life lessons out of this or resonate very much with the characters, but it'll be a fun time is what I'm expecting. Like I really don't think I'm going to be having to pay attention too much to this book, so this will be like a good one to just have on in the background as I'm doing other things is essentially what I'm thinking. The 8th book I want to talk to you about is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. Now, this is a book that literally just came out a few days ago on August 12th. Now, the prompt that this book fulfills is read a book where the protagonist is a senior citizen. Literally, the only thing I know about this book that had me super intrigued already from the start is that the FMC is 75 years old and a retired serial killer. Let me read you a little bit about it. So, this is a mystery thriller about a retired serial killer's quiet life getting upended by an unexpected visitor. To protect her secret, there's only one option left. What's another murder? I could also use it for the Herkiad new releases prompt, so fingers crossed I can get this book on my TBR quick. Number 9 on the list is Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. He is a black male author, and this was his debut novel. The fact that this is the first novel that he came out with is amazing to me. This book is outstanding. So I originally started reading this in July. I got the book from the library, but I loved it so much that I put it on pause because I wanted to purchase my own copy and actually go back to the beginning and annotate it. So I haven't yet started it, but I did get my copy and I'm really excited to own this because this is already a 5-star read for me, even though I have not finished the book. Let me read you the premise because I need you to know how important this book is and I need you to know why you need to pick this book up immediately. Loretta Thurwar and Hurricane Stacks are the stars of Chain Gang All-Stars, the cornerstone of CAPE, criminal action penal entertainment, a highly popular, highly controversial, profit-raising program in America's increasingly dominant private prison system. It's the return of the gladiators, and prisoners are competing for the ultimate prize, their freedom. In CAPE, prisoners travel as links in chain gangs, competing in death matches for packed arenas with righteous protesters at the gates. Thurwar and Stax, both teammates and lovers, are the fan favorites, and if all goes well, Thurwar will be free in just a few matches, but Cape's corporate owners will stop at nothing to protect their status quo, and the obstacles they lay in Thurwar's path have devastating consequences. This is a multi-POV story that looks at the American prison system's unholy alliance of systemic racism, unchecked capitalism, and mass incarceration, and a clear-eyed reckoning with what freedom in this country really means. Powerful. This book is so powerful. What I like about this book already so far with what I've read is that he includes footnotes that tell you about true historical events that have happened in America. I haven't even told you what book 10 is yet, but if I was only going to choose one book off this list to read, it would be this one. This is the book that I know is going to be 5 stars, and I know this is going to be the most impactful book that I read on this entire list. So I have to finish this one. Oh, and by the way, the prompt that it fulfills is to read a book that explores a social justice issue. Okay, I finally got to book number 10 on this list, and that is going to be 1984 by George Orwell. I have never read this book, but this has been on my physical shelf probably longer than most books you can see behind me. This is one of those books that everybody talks about and references, and the whole idea of Big Brother and dystopia, and literally this is the prompt that I'm reading this for, is dystopian. And it's crazy how on the nose I guess this book was, even though it was written in 1949. I feel like I've been so in the dark because I haven't read this book, so I feel like I need to just educate myself and finally get to this book so I know what everybody is talking about. The most I know from this book is this is where the concept of Big Brother originated. So if you're like me and you've never actually read this book, let me tell you about the synopsis. So Winston Smith lives under the oppressive rule of Big Brother in Oceania, a nation controlled by a totalitarian party. The party uses surveillance, propaganda, and manipulation to control every aspect of citizens' lives, including their thoughts. So dystopian novels are a little bit scary to me. I feel like they are scarier than reading straight up horror books because dystopian novels are things that I feel like can actually happen or are actually happening. So when you read books like 1984 or Chain Gang All-Stars or The Handmaid's Tale or other books that are dystopians and it's not real, but like we're only like a hop, skip, and a jumping away from it actually happening, that terrifies me. That's like kind of watching natural disaster movies. Like literally watching an end of the world movie will terrify me, but watching a movie with like a big scary monster will not, because there's a difference, you know, like monsters don't really exist, but you know, a tsunami actually happening and destroying a whole city can happen. So to me, that is terrifying. So for me, reading a dystopian novel is much more difficult and terrifying for me to actually want to pick up. So although I love the idea of dystopian novels and I think they are amazing and profound, I'm actually really scared to read this by how much I feel like it's probably going to affect me. So here is the stack of 6 out of the 10 books that I own physically. The other 4 I would have to get either from the library or audiobook or ebook in order to read them, or I could go purchase them if I really wanted to. Essentially, these are 10 books that I would like to get on my TBR before the end of the year, but like I said in the beginning, it's not imperative that I do. These are just 10 books that have been on my radar, and they have been on my radar since the beginning of the year. So I would like to get around to them because I was interested in them since January, but you know what? There has been so many other books that I would like to get to, maybe even before some of these. So let's see if I actually get to any of these by the end of the year. If you've actually read any of these or have them also on your TBR, let me know because I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on the 10 books that I've chosen to potentially read before the end of the year. Let me know if I should definitely bump any of these up on my TBR or if you've actually found a new book that you would like to add to your TBR just from watching this video. That's always interesting to me. I feel like every time I watch somebody's video that has like a stack of books, I always end up adding at least one book to my TBR. So hopefully you saw something you liked. I mean, that's always fun, right? Anyways, I really need to go and get back to reading because it is already the second week in August and I've only read one book from my final FMC TBR and I don't want my final girl to die, so I need to go. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you stuck around to the end, leave me a book stack so that I know that you made it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!